Right now we are pursuing electrical scams. And this is something we need to be very vigilant about all across the country. When an elderly homeowner's power goes off, and typically the reason it has gone off is because a circuit breaker has blown. We know that the elderly homeowner is going to panic, and they look in the yellow pages, and they're looking for an ad like this one, which promises a technician to come out and repair the problem within an hour. What we've uncovered is that many of these companies are related to one another, and the technician who comes out is being trained to inflate the price. For example, in one of the scams, he came out and he draws up a contract to do a tune-up of the circuits, the circuit breakers, for $1,125. It only took him 15 minutes. He says, I'll apply antioxidants. And that means spraying the circuit breakers with WD-40. Again, took 15 minutes, charged $1,125. In this contract, he charged $1,805, but he gave a 10% senior discount, reducing it to $1,625. Again, this is a scam, and we need to be aware of it. The final tip is always have a second line of defense at your front door. There are many crooks out there who are looking around the community, seeing who is an elderly person in a home. And even if they come to the door in a uniform, my advice is don't let them in. That's why a second line of defense, having a screen door, having a peephole, or having a chain, is very, very important, because it gives you that ability not to let the person in. I remember one case I prosecuted. The fella used to work for Router. I'm sure many of you have heard of that company, a plumbing company. I love saying that word, Router. The judge got very frustrated with me for saying it so much. The fella was fired from Router, but they did not ask for him to return the uniform. So one day, here is this unemployed fella, decides to go and steal from some elderly people. He drives over to this retirement community. It was an assisted living community, independent living as well. He drives through the gates, dressed in his Router uniform, and knocks on the door of an apartment of a 100-year-old man. He says, "Good morning, sir. Management has sent me. There's a problem with your drains. May I please come in and check your water pressure?" Of course, if you're 100 and you live in a nice, safe retirement community and you pay good money to be there, and a man in a uniform is at the door who says, "Management has sent me," you're not going to challenge that. And so he agreed to let him in. And then the crook tells the elderly homeowner, "Go to your rear bathroom and turn on your hot and cold taps when I tell you to." So now the homeowner is out of sight from the crook. The crook is now going through the kitchen and the living room, stealing whatever he can from the elderly homeowner. And he does this 4 other times. So don't let anybody in. If a young lady comes to the door with a baby in her arms and says, "My baby is sick, could you please let me have a glass of water?" my advice is don't let them in. Say to that young lady, "I'll call 911 and ask for the paramedics to come immediately," because that is going to be a scam. As I close, some final remarks. What to look for? If you're a caregiver, or you're somebody who is a family member or a relative, or you're watching over some seniors, the biggest red flag that I've seen over the last 12 years is isolation. The perpetrator will try whatever they can to isolate the senior citizen from their family, from their social connections, from their loved ones. Because otherwise, if they're connected to the community, the perpetrator will not be able to do what they set out to do. So if you detect that this elderly person, for whatever reason, is no longer able to meet with you, is not attending functions, is not coming to church anymore, this is a huge red flag, and we need to make inquiries. Secondly, be very careful about the situation in which the unemployed son in his 40s is living at home with his widowed mother in her home. Over the last several years, unfortunately, I have prosecuted a number of tragic cases in which the profile of this son is so consistent. He's typically aged 40s to early 50s. He is lazy and unemployed. And whenever his mother comes to my office before she has to testify against him, I'll look at the police reports and I'll notice that it says that the son is unemployed. Casually, I will say, why is it that your 46-year-old son is not working? And she'll say, well, Mr. Greenwood, he tells me he has a medical condition. And I'll say, let me guess, he's got a bad back. And she says, how did you know? I said, it comes from sitting on your sofa 8 hours a day with your TV remote. And I know, again, I'm being a little cynical, but it's true. There are so many of these sons who are lazy, who are sponging off their mothers. What type of sons are they? They're a son who is either a single son who has never, ever left home. He's never, ever gone out and got a job. And why should he? Because his own mother is enabling him. She is cooking his meals, she is ironing his socks, she's doing everything for him. And he has no motivation to leave. The second type of son is the son who's divorced and who figures that he cannot afford to pay alimony as well as pay for his own apartment. So he comes back and starts living with his own mother. And thirdly, the son who is just coming out of jail or prison. This son has an addiction to either drugs, alcohol, or gambling. And because he's unemployed and lazy and not getting his own income, he is using his mother's money or his mother's assets to pay for his addiction. What does he do? He steals her jewelry. He steals her checks. And then he goes and pays for his addiction. When his mother finds out that he's doing this, she confronts him. What happens after the confrontation? Violence. The son starts hitting his mother, slapping her, pushing her, knocking her down. The first time he does this, does she call 911? No. Because she's embarrassed that she has raised a son who does this to his own mother. She doesn't want the neighbors to find out. She doesn't want the community to be aware that her son is doing this, and so she keeps it under wraps. Eventually we hear about it because she ends up in the emergency room of the local hospital with a fractured hip or with cuts and abrasions to the face. So be very careful to watch out for that type of profile. Thirdly, the new friend. Many of our victims become victims because somebody has just moved into the neighborhood. Maybe it's the next door neighbor. Maybe it's somebody who's been knocking on the door, says he'll do a landscape job for her. Somebody who's bumped into her in the supermarket, who feels that this person can be befriended and taken advantage of. So if you hear an elderly relative tell you that they've just met this wonderful person, be inquisitive. Where did you meet them? What do you know about them? Can I meet them? Because, unfortunately, so often the new friend has got other motives. Another thing is that if you see changes in the senior's appearance, they're losing weight, their hair is disheveled, bruises start appearing on their wrists, on their upper arms, or on their face. You're seeing changes in their mental capacity, perhaps signs of forgetfulness, repeating questions, not realizing the value of their money, complaining that they don't have any money. These are all telltale signs that perhaps something is happening. So what should we do if we suspect elder abuse in our community, in our street, in our family, in our own home? I can't stress enough, we need to go with our instincts. We've got to pick up the phone and call your local adult protective services. Every state in the country has an agency such as Adult Protective Services. They may not call it by that particular name, but you will be able to ask around and make sure that you make this call. You can be anonymous if you wish, but please, please don't ignore it. Remember that time is of the essence. If you delay making a report to your local agency, this could mean the difference between this elder losing thousands of dollars or losing their health, or tragically in some cases, losing their life. We need to understand that when we get involved, when we make that call, we are making it our business, and we should make it our business. Unfortunately, we are teaching our children and ourselves that we shouldn't be nosy, we shouldn't be inquisitive, we shouldn't be asking questions. But when it comes to taking care of our elders, when it comes to being aware of what's going on with our elders, we need to make it our business because we owe it to them. In California, we've created a campaign called Silence Isn't Golden. And we've used this poster to get the message home to so many people in the communities. We put this poster on bus stops, bus shelters, libraries, dentist offices, schools, wherever people are and congregate. We want this message to go out. Silence isn't golden. Will you please help stop elder abuse? We use red as an indication of physical elder abuse. We use green to connect to the financial elder abuse, and we use blue for elder neglect. So the number I'm showing you is not the number that you would call for your state, but you will find that local number through your telephone directory, through making inquiries. Just ask who your local aging and independent services or adult protective services agency is. As I finish today, I want to leave you with this message for seniors everywhere. And I learned a technique as a speaker from my own grandfather, who I would go to see preach sermons in London when I was a young boy, and he would always finish his sermons to try to summarize what he was trying to say by using words that began with the same letter. And I want to finish with some letters of 3 words. But first of all, respect and honor. You know, that's something that I've learned from my parents. It's something that I'm very, very privileged to be able to tell you that I have the greatest respect for this generation of people in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s who've worked so long and hard for this country, and we owe it to them to show them our respect and honor. I'm committed to seeking justice for such people who are victims of physical or financial elder abuse. And the 3 words that I leave you with begin with the letter P. Why do I like P? Because I'm Paul, and I'm a prosecutor. I used to say I'm partial to P, but my doctor says don't ever say that in public. But the 3 Ps I want to leave you with are passion, purpose, and perseverance. Because if we apply those 3 qualities in whatever job or whatever ministry we have, it's amazing how far we can go in seeking justice for that generation. If there's something that I've said to you today that has triggered something and you'd like some further information, you can certainly contact me, and this is my contact information, and there's my email address. Of course, you have to bear with me because I'm in court, I'm prosecuting cases, and I may not necessarily be able to get back to you as quickly as you might like me to, but I will get there eventually. Thank you for watching today. I hope that what I've shared with you will be of some importance to you. Pass the information on. Be vigilant. Look out for your neighbor. And let's together commit to seeking justice for that wonderful generation. Thank you very much.